Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. So in today's video, we are going to take a close look at the D22S. I just randomly came across this thing and I was really curious and I wanted to see, is this thing any good? It supports only 5 different emulators, but what are we actually having with this emulator? We're having NES, GBA, Mega Drive, Super Famicom and MAME. I don't know, it just looks kind of cool in the color red. So my first impression, I can tell you that this thing is really cheap. Yeah. So first of all, there is no shoulder buttons. The form factor is not comfortable at all. At the back, we do have ourselves the BL5C replaceable battery. And what I find kind of cool, and that was also the reason I picked it up, not only the price point, but also having 6-button layout. Yeah, and analog is the slider joystick. The same kind of technology or kind of a joystick that we have seen back in the day with the PlayStation Portable. But they're only going to have one speaker at the left side, and this is absolutely a budget product when it comes to that. So inside the box we do have more goodies. So first of all, it comes with an extra controller, and I was quite surprised to see that this thing feels kind of comfortable. Even having this special, let's say, overall form factor of this thing is absolutely nuts. Where previous models have these very cheap overall controls, this thing is quite nice. So it's still the same slider joystick, only they raised up the joystick or itself, so it's more comfortable to play. But is it really super comfortable? Not really. Select and start over here. It's also a very strange, very weird combination of one huge button. The ABXY, or better said, the ABXYZL, they completely like messed it around. And it comes with a micro USB connection. In here, there is no toilet paper manual today. And we do have ourselves the very tiny, pointless, very sad micro USB cable and the AV out, the smaller barrel jack. So let's plug in the battery. They are just a BL5C old school Nokia batteries, and this is an 1020 milliamp, but they are really cheap to buy. So if you want to replace it, upgrade it, that is also a possibility. But yeah, what about the device itself? The configuration also is kind of strange. So I just wanted to showcase, if you want to plug this thing in, you need to do it over here at the right bottom corner. It's a very strange situation. And oh, not to forget, a very important thing that we need to double check is of course SD card. 16 GB comes with this particular model, but I can tell you there are no brands. I think this is a new thing going on there in China. They're not going to give us any good brands anymore. So that's a little bit of a bummer. Next thing that we need to do is figure out how to get out of this menu. I think it was pressing start if I'm saying it correctly. Select home. Oh man, the configuration of these things are freaking pain. And yeah, okay, so you know, when it comes to the configuration of everything, what is interesting with the language, it also changes out the front thumbnail, so that is great in my opinion. But the way how this thing actually works, it's so messed up. So the Y button is actually getting into it, into the menus, close screen, and we have auto shut off. Pressing the home button when actually in the game itself, here we're having the option to make a quick load and quick save and return to the game or exit the game itself. And also showcases the volume control. Going back from the main menu, it even stutters more. I find it quite fascinating to see how they managed to mess up the emulation of NES. Come on, you can run this on a freaking potato nowadays. Well, I'm always a big fan of the D-pad. I do love this slider joystick, especially because of the pattern on it. It gives you a lot of grip and a lot of control of the game. But if you think you have seen all of the mistakes they're making with this, it's getting worse. So if you're going to be charging this device at the same time that we're going to actually boot up a game, it just freezes. Another system I want to check out is some Game Boy Advance. There are so many cool games to actually play on this. Oh, did I blow out myself? Yep, I did. But this is such a fun game. Bomberman is so cool. Okay, so there's always one thing with this freaking device I need to figure out. Where is the acceleration? Yeah, because all of the buttons are completely messed up in my experience. So where we do have like a pretty damn bad emulation for NES, and GBA wasn't that great. For the Mega Drive part, it seems to be working just fine, without any weird things going on. So I have no more like, how can you just not... What is going on with this particular thing? Next up, another 16-bit system, and I can tell you that it's absolutely the same hot mess like with NES and with GBA. So one of the weirdest things ever is that we can actually play with 2 players at the same time. But next up, let's try some Beefcake and Dinos with the MAME arcade emulator, and this seems to be running just fine. So from this stand, I think it's basically only the Mega Drive and the MAME that seems to be running just good enough. Oh, this is really cool. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do getting into the TV out mode is need to set the device to the output. There we go, that's much better. And we'll put it in the original resolution, so that is quite nice. Okay, that's a positive thing. Let's go all the way back and let's choose a game. Before we go to actually choose a game, it looks kind of messed up in my opinion. Let's plug in the second controller and let's see if this feature even works. So there we go. Feature that we do see a lot when it comes to these Chinese devices. But let's boot up the Beefcake game. The next thing that we need to do. No. What you're going to check out is loading. And there we go. That was the last part I was reading there. Entering credits. And there we go. Oh, you still need to choose a character. Oh boy, this plays absolutely horrible. This is just unplayable with this freaking long slider joystick. It's time to rip and tear when it comes to the device, and this is one of those difficult ones simply because there are no screws holding this thing together. So I always like to be very gentle. So with a cheap device like this, it's not going to be a big pain if I'm going to destroy something. So the construction is quite interesting, but also a bummer at the same time, because they sanded off completely all of the freaking information of the chip itself. Yeah, there's nothing much to see. Volume control is going to be straightly assembled on the device. So the next thing that we can do, what is maybe interesting, we can remove the frame over here. So this is basically how this thing is put together. Underneath here we're finding the PCB. There's one huge PCB, by the way, and we can replace the LCD if you need to. This chip says e-tron Tech, but there is nothing much we can actually do with this. Even if I can remove it, and I know I can remove it, the PCB has been screwed down with a couple of screws here and there, here holding it in place. But in my opinion, there is nothing really much to see when it comes to this.